that does not necessarily translate to when they play internationally. And it can be the same for some of the other regions too. But again, it depends on how you choose to confront your opponents.
Yeah.
So
the Lion being banned out first, that's he's been banned 3 times today. That is correct. Lion is back to almost being an insta-ban. I wonder what has changed over the last little while to make Lion an insta-ban and Blitz also going down. So there you have it. We will once again go without a single hard breacher being banned by these teams.
Yeah, definitely definitely interesting bans. The Lion, I mean, well, not really. The Lion's not surprising necessarily. I guess, as we talked about earlier, the meta is cyclical, and maybe Lion's just back in the meta. He's just what people are playing in scrims, and people are realizing it. Oh wow, he's still good. Maybe we should get rid of him. It's entirely possible that that's all there is to it. These things do happen where sometimes, like a nerf will come down, and suddenly people think to themselves, oh, nerfed, well, not that good anymore, and they'll cease to play that operator as much, but then realize later on that, oh, still totally viable. That could be what's going on with Lion. Maybe not, but either way, he's getting a lot of bans. I
mean, there's still a pretty common, I think, opinion amongst a lot of pros that Lion is still too oppressive to play against in the circumstances that teams roll him out. It might only be at this particular level where it's really on display or really apparent, but teams can structure their attack completely around those 2-4 seconds of immobility for the defenders and just thrive off of the fact that nobody can move for fear of being seen and killed. And that's why I think a lot of these teams are realizing that the teams that tend to play Lion, at least up until we hit to the Paris Major, the teams that tended to play Lion the most were the teams that were winning the most. There's a direct correlation right there, and it's not even necessarily whether it's really successful. It's very similar to Glaz, very similar to Ying, possibly even to Blitz, where it's oppressive and it's unenjoyable and causes too many problems for defenders, whereas you said, just ban them. There you go. Now you don't need to deal with them.
Yeah. They're the type of operators I like to refer to as no-chance operators, where if they play perfectly, then there's little to no chance that you're going to be able to win that. It's like a Blackbeard, for example. Blackbeard, maybe, even if Blackbeard only blocks one single bullet, if you both play a perfect round, and if say you enter into an engagement with a Blackbeard, and you both play as perfectly as possible, you both instantly react and fire onto each other's heads, well, then Blackbeard wins, 100% of the time. And those are the types of things that they exist in Siege, and they can be frustrating to deal with, and that's probably why we see so many people banning out operators like Lion. And Glaz, in fact. We saw that as well earlier today in the previous match. Instead of Lion getting banned in Rogue EG, Glaz got banned. And guess who got played? Because
almost every round.
Almost every round, Lion was there because Glaz was banned instead. So, I mean, Ying was banned too. I mean, this is another one of those no-chance operators. So there's definitely a lot of those operators that need to be accounted for, both on attack and defense. We're focusing on the attackers right now, but it is an ongoing battle in the operator ban phase, and I have to imagine without it, things might be a lot different, and maybe not for the better.
So we'll start on the double bars for both of these teams. Right along with Yeti is the Buck. Incredible fragging potential for the IGL/captain. And look at that, trying to do some work with the skeleton key onto the smoke of Brian. They've got Thinking Nade over on the castle, so that's a good flexibility between this team. Of course, like we said, you can put Brian on that roll. Yeti will see through those metal bars. Brian and the smoke will be gone. Brian has also been running the joint FMG, or the FMG and the SMG combo. Oftentimes not really running the shotgun. A couple times Brian even had the pistol with him on a smoke running impacts. I like that we're seeing a difference in how smoke is used. I don't know exactly what it does with the balance of the defenders. His second kill is going to go down as Heavy with that para in hand will dispatch Chala, the Valkyrie, leaving both Brian and Chala to do info work on those cameras that will still be available, as well as the Evil Eye for Redeemer.
Yeah, he's got a good position here. He knows Sandwich is clear right this minute, and he could drop at any moment, but it's not necessary, as here comes the defuse plant under cover of smoke. Redeemer, what a shot on a crazy, but it's a trade. That is just peculiar. But regardless of the trade from Redeemer, there is still a diffuser planted just in the threshold of the doorway. Yeti will shut down Thinking Nade from above. He's been doing some great work upstairs, leaving just Rampy, the final defender, to go against 4. Now he's got one lit opponent, but that's not really going to be enough for him to make this work. It'd have to be a pretty incredible clutch, especially considering how little time there is left on that diffuser. He's not really been able to find any of the angles he's looking for as he starts peeking into the B site, narrowly missing some of these potential kills, and there's no time left. It's all over now. Rampy just going to save his life and his KD. Not a problem. I mean, I really can't blame him for not going for that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no real point unless you want to rush to the next round. Just let Noble get a bit impatient and know that they've won the round. Congratulations to them. Rampy doesn't need to thrust himself into the line of fire there, as it would be an impactless kill for Noble just for them to pad their stats. So Spacestation Gaming will fall in that very first round here. And like we said, double bars are not always a site that the defenders can win with great reliability. Over the course of the weekend, we saw Crazy just putting in a huge amount of work on that glass. So it doesn't really... or my apologies. Yeah, we saw Crazy putting in a ton of work on Glaz now. There he goes. He'll flex onto it from the Montaigne. But another thing to keep in mind was Spacestation Gaming is one of the few teams that was running Clash quite a bit. Redeemer was actually on Clash a number of times in their matchup on Bank against SK. It was played off stream, but you saw that Clash was coming out almost every single round for them. So that's something they have in their back pocket. I think a lot of teams are still a little too early on for them to know exactly where they want to play these two operators. It hasn't really seen the dust settle. It's not immediately obvious that you're going to need one in your composition, the same way that you have Maestro and Lion coming in and making an immediate impact, similar to Mira, because I think they're going to be a bit more situational operators. But I think the consensus is that if you find a good place to use them, they are incredibly strong.
So, Penthouse hold now for Space Station. Going to their second site. They've come off of the abnormal sites. They're going on to the more typical site, which is this site. Of course, the projector and Penthouse. It doesn't see as much success as it once did on Coastline. It used to be seen as kind of the the bastion, the one holdable site, but that has seen a lot of change after it was defended in earnest quite a lot. People figured out how to attack it really efficiently. And the tools that Noble have brought to this attack are just about perfect. They've got grenades from the Buck, which can do a lot of damage. Interestingly, they've chosen to move Buck upstairs instead of pushing him downstairs, which he could also do a lot of vertical pressure from the main lobby. You don't even need to clear out the roamers. But they do have the bucket with the nades, so that's still going to be useful. They also have 2 sets of smoke, which a lot of disruption potential there, as well as the glass. Not even speaking about the Zofia, though, in terms of disruption. So there's a lot of options here for Noble. On the flip side, you also have plenty of counter in the plant denial, indirect plant denial, using that Maestro, and even being able to get some of the drones, as you can see.
With most of Space Station Gaming currently sequestered inside of Theater, that's going to allow Penthouse to just be run over by Noble if they play this right, and Crazy will likely be the one to start it off, as that Glaz doesn't miss a lot of shots, especially when he's able to get those smokes down and just absolutely bamboozle SSG. Chala playing below as the Valkyrie is not uncommon in the slightest. You have a Pulse, a Mute, possibly even, or Pulse Valkyrie and possibly even a Mute down there. You can possibly tear away at some of the floor to assist them being able to toss that C4 up and catch an otherwise idle victim trying to get that plant down. Heavy will drop, and there you go. Along with the Glaz, you'll also see a bit of an aid here being done by the Capitão. This is all Noble as Chala's been found from below. That was Yeti as the Buck just waltzing right in. Acid will take out Rampy, but Redeemer will get one to try and equalize as that's the Hibana out of the fray. Meanwhile, on the flank, the Jaeger takes out Yeti as Yeti incapable of getting towards his site. They've also managed to stop that diffuser as Brian's still doing great job. And he'll force the Glass to have to wade through that smoke. Crazy will have to pull the goo mine out of his foot before he can possibly be able to get the diffuse down. But Acid will get jumped on by Redeemer playing over in the hallway. That'll leave Crazy with diffuser about 30 seconds left. He can possibly still get a pick here and go for the plant, but he's going to have to get aggressive and not realize that there's a Maestro waiting. Redeemer backs up as the Glass tries to trudge in. And Space Station Gaming will win their chance, or their second chance, on defense.
So that round was a little confusing for me. Noble had the control. They laid down the smoke. The anti-plant was, the indirect plant denial was dispatched by Noble. So good job to them for that. But then they also tried to plant on 2 pre-made holes in very common plant spots, and both of those players who attempted that plant then died in that attempt. So that ultimately resulted in no defuse plant going down for Noble, and Spacestation managing to hold out regardless of the rest of the defense falling apart because they had just 1 player downstairs looking through a bunch of holes. A little bit of a, well, not a little bit, just a considerable mistake there from Noble for 2 different players to try and plant on holes in the floor.
And huge credit goes to Brian there at shutting that down with those 2 very fast 1-2 kills. That defuse must have been at the final second. That's how close it came. And then if Brian isn't able to get that kill, that's a totally different outcome that I'm thinking is happening in that round, because you don't force the Glaz to have to get into the fight. You can just keep him at long range, even if the defuse planter gets killed.
So Spacestation now, after their successful defense, will go over to the kitchen. So not attempting to go to the double bar again, which I have to agree with their reasoning there. Kitchen, as you've talked about, is one of the more favored sites on this map, and will aid Spacestation as they attempt to hold it. Now, they've also got a lot of pressure going into the top floor, and castle barricades will be there to help them out, slowing down the roam clear wherever possible.
Crazy looking like he might have actually solo entry down in office. He's droning himself in. That's intriguing.
Notice how fast Yeti has gotten into the building as well.
It's the 3rd round that he's done that very fast.
Yeah, he's just going. And his initial entry has been, well, it's been working out for him and his team, but it's usually the, in the last round, it was not the initial entry that ultimately cost Noble, it was the actual attack into the site.
And Yeti's been I think a really good story for Pro League. You know, he came in with WBG in their very brief run. They only played 2 Pro League matches because of the setup at the time, losing to Rogue and then getting knocked out by Elevate. Actually almost beating Elevate as they went up, I believe, the first match on Chalet, 1-0 back when Chalet was actually in the map pool. But Yeti was one of the strongest performers on the team at the time, and he always seemed like somebody who would be poised to return, and he's been able to captain this team over here and has done an exemplary job with it, not just being able to call the right shots, but also frag well. So being able to find the ability, or being able to find a way for him to get in and have that ability, is not really too much of a surprise. And he'll help try to pave the way for his teams as he just dumps a frag grenade down onto that barbed wire situated by the window in kitchen.
Also managing to get a camera, I believe, for his efforts. So an efficient grenade, to be certain. Now you can see Noble, this is the worrisome thing. It doesn't seem like they really know what they're trying to attack right now. They've got players all the way over by delivery entrance. Looks like they're setting up right now to push into A. They've got Breezy with the diffuser in that position, but there's not a lot of pushing power going on here. And meanwhile, Spacestation have good positions to deny this take from Noble.
Yeah, and you can see that from above, the call being made as we head towards the closing moments of this round, that Spacestation are going to need to maneuver themselves closer to the site, and the call is made as they have Rampy getting closer in. Yeti, meanwhile, has been downed, and he'll just be left to bleed out at top of the courtyard and see if anybody from SSG is going to be able to find him. But here we go. Execute coming in, and no top control whatsoever for Noble, so they're just going to have to try to take a fight on the main floor right now, and you can see it playing out perfectly amidst the smoke. Breezy will get the plant down successfully, and I don't think Spacestation quite know what hit them. You got Crazy watching Cool Vibe stairs with the Glaz there. Acid and Chala will both get a kill for their teams, as Yeti is still down, so this is an advantage in favor of Spacestation, but could possibly be a tough slog for them to be able to get this retake in. Just for a second here, Heavy looks like what should have been a headshot on Brian, but Crazy looks away for just a second. Rampy is there to capitalize. Heavy will push up now, trying to guard that diffuser. He's going to be crucial to ensure that the diffuse plant doesn't stop. The smoke still playing tight and low, but the diffuse going down by the Valkyrie of Chala. Chala will be able to get the plant. It's actually Rampy getting the diffuse off, and unbeknownst to Noble, he's protected by the rest of his team. Redeemer picks up a pair to close things out, and Spacestation will take their second round in a row.
Well, that was a decent plant from Noble. They got, I mean, that's the confusing thing. They managed to get a plant where they really should not have, but they were so spread out and seemingly uncoordinated. They had a downed player, Yeti, all the way over on the other end of the map, and they also had Acid in that general vicinity, attempting possibly to try and pick up his teammate, but it was not to be. And Acid did manage to get a kill, but he was not able to do any more damage after that, rotating to the top floor, trying to get vertical pressure above the diffuser that had been planted, but there were opponents in his way. The Valkyrie was still inside of VIP. All the while, the rest of the attackers who were trying to hold the post plant just fell apart. So that is the second round in a row from Noble where it seems like they really should have been taking it, and they just didn't. This is reminiscent of the first match of the day, Cloud9 versus Mouse. Cloud9 lost a lot of rounds simply in situations where they seemed like they were supposed to win, but just couldn't.
Yeah, I mean, this has been a trend among a lot of teams where they just can't close it out in that dying stretch, right?
Yeah.
That staying power is part of what makes teams so special. And it's actually a pretty defining difference between these teams. And what separates the good from the great is just that you don't choke in post plants. G2 and Paris Major would continuously be down 3v5, 2v4, 1v3, and yet they'd still win just because of the way they had it set up. They're calm under pressure. It's hard to train for that. It's hard to get yourself to a point where you can continuously do that. But once a team reaches that level, it really helps separate you from the other teams in the same class of play.
Yeah, I think that honestly, a lot of it just comes down to individuals overthinking it. You know, when you get into a situation where you're like, oh, I need to hold this diffuser, you start to overthink. You start to position yourself a little bit too much. You just need to keep an eye on what you need to keep an eye on and just not mess it up. I mean, for example, we saw that Capitao in the last round, I believe it was Heavy, on the kitchen window. And he went behind the secondary wall outside of that kitchen window because he thought to himself, I need more cover, I need to protect myself. And that was not the right play because by going behind that second wall, he lost visual on the Jaeger who just stuck the disable of the defuse. And that was it for the round. I mean, he did also die, but even if he had stayed alive there, behind that secondary wall, he would not have been able to deny that disable. So, yeah, I think a lot of it is just people overthinking what they need to accomplish.
It also falls down to comms, too, right? You know, a well-oiled machine able to give accurate, clean, and fast calls will be able to help your remaining players clutch that round, whether you are in a post-plant situation or whether you're just playing defense and trying to prevent the plant. Those calls are vital, and being able to coordinate and communicate like that takes months, possibly even years for some of these teams to gel at, and that's with roster changes all happening at the same time. Into this action, though, we are halfway through round number 4. You have Yeti from above, good control at the time being inside of Hookah and Aqua, but the first impediment they're going to have is thinking they had that castle playing on Cool Vibe stairs.
They have managed to get control of Billiards pretty quickly, and Yeti's going to do a lot of damage here with his shotgun, opening things up. The grenade actually could land right on top of Cool Vibe stairs, but it just narrowly misses. Some damage done to Yeti from the L hallway, and he's now just inches away from death. Great positioning here from Rampy, but he's going to fall off. Now that the pressure is applied, he knows he doesn't need to linger and can simply go back to the site to deny the plant and play the objective.
So good, he's able to burn about 40 seconds off there. Redeemer will find his target on a Breezy. Yeti very low on HP, but thinking Nade will require a pickup after being downed. So absorb a ton of damage. Redeemer picks up a second kill. Crazy! Oh, Redeemer's all over the place as Yeti can't push up. And he's still got his sights trained, waiting for Acid and Heavy. Rampy on the flank, though, as Redeemer will find his fourth. All but one. Waiting to see what Heavy is going to be able to accomplish. Will there be a courtesy here as Redeemer vaults in? An ace! Redeemer will claim every single one. That Maestro, boy, great maneuverability and a parkour flank to get the final kill needed for every single one.
What a play from Redeemer. Some huge miscommunication going on there for Noble. You saw the Sophia stepping into the hallway after 2 of his teammates died from the blue stairs. And not looking at the blue stairs. Definitely a little bit of a whoops from Noble, allowing for that push in the first place and then having absolutely no follow-up. Spacestation seemed to be in the driver's seat of this first half. As they move to the final round of this first half, they will be defending Penthouse Theater, a site that they previously were successful on. In fact, their very first win. So here we go. They'll manage to have won every site they've played on now, as you noted, as they just won the bars, because they had lost the first time. We'll see if they can
if they can get Penthouse a second time around. It was really a round that Noble fell apart, and it wasn't necessarily a convincing one from SSG. So we'll see if they're able to emulate that.
Yeah, as we talked about earlier, the first 2 wins for Spacestation seemed to be Noble having the edge and then not being able to finish it out. So, Spacestation setting themselves up much the same as they did in the last attempt for this site. Wow, look at that, Redeemer. 10 kills, and look at, nobody else has over 3. That is pretty crazy.
Yeah, that was a great effort. I mean, he came into it with 5, right? He just doubled his kill count in 1 round. Easy. Yeah. Easy for Maestro.
Easy for Redeemer.
Yeah.
Now, this setup is going to be, again, very similar to what they had in the past. They are going to be facing against the Glaz yet again. There is no second set of smokes this time. Noble last time had a Capital, and they have forgone that this time in exchange for a IQ, which is going to be a lot of help, I'm sure, in clearing out those electronic devices.
Pretty astonishing, though, that the defenders are able to put such a stranglehold on this, especially with the way we just saw the Rogue EG match. Like I said, I know you said that once you play matches more, it typically tends to close in a little bit, but Coastline has never been a map where we've really expected the defense to be able to run up the score here. You know, you have to try and keep it close by winning Kitchen maybe once or twice, and then maybe getting lucky elsewhere in order to take 3 of the 5 rounds.
Well, by Pro League standards, Coastline is still somewhat new, and you have to keep that in mind. I know it's not a new map anymore, but when we're comparing it, what? Okay. Well, Thinking Nade's gone now. Crazy, a random spray through the wall, it seems, and he manages to get a kill onto the smoke. That's a lot of damage done there. So, good job to Crazy. Anyway.
That was a beautiful shot, especially onto the smoke. This could possibly be Noble just opening up enough to be able to squeeze out a win here on this round in particular. Just because, you know, you've lost probably your best utility here outside of a C4, trying to control the recoil of Maestro's LMG as Redeemer, and you'll have a Nitro Cell, as I'd mentioned, able to find a kill onto that, as you also had Brian jumping in too. Brian was pivotal last time around on this round, just playing underneath. If it wasn't for Brian, this would have been Noble's. So you'll see what course correction is able to be made here. Crazy on top of the bed, getting the plant down. He will be explosive proof. Brian trying to retake to site. Goodbye. Redeemer will add to his tally with his 11th kill, and will also stop the plant from going down, which means that Acid and Heavy will have to retrieve it and go for it anywhere inside of site.
You can see the flank here from Rampy. He's got the information from those marks being called out. Chala's going to be able to get Acid, though, and the final attacker, which is Heavy, will go down to Redeemer. Spacestation absolutely locking out that site.
You've got, you know, X dozen bullets that are in there. You just need to keep spraying and spraying and spraying and spraying, and the Aldo doesn't have that much recoil to manage, especially at such short range. And Redeemer gets the kill, and that was his 2nd kill as well. So he's got a dozen at the moment. Not bad as we head into the 2nd split. So
the attackers here from Space Station, they are bringing a Ying. It's always, if it's not one thing, it's another, right? Lion's banned, then Glass is going to see play. Glass is banned, then Lion's going to see play. And sometimes you'll just see up Ying for those Candelas, and that seems to be what Space Station are favoring here. Now, we've seen in the past how useful Ying can be on a Penthouse attack. It seems like they're going to instead add 6-pick into a Glass. So, again, if it's not one thing, it's another. Now, it's a kitchen defense, and Glaz plus a Capital could be a formidable combination using those smokes on this attack. Top fragger for... wait, hang on a second. Breezy has 0 kills and 0 assists, and he's top fragger. I mean, points, man. Points are crazy.
Drones.
Yeah,
I think people forget how many points you get for drone work.
Yeah.
And those kind of assists that you need. Like, that's what happens.
No, true. So, good lineup here for Space Station, as we talked about. Lots of information and positional denial for a Noble. They've got the Castle, they've got the Valkyrie, they've got the Maestro and the Smoke for the indirect, and a Jaeger just for that pure frag. Overall, a good setup as well. So you can see they're putting a lot of emphasis on the top floor. This has been, I think, the trend on Coastline. If you're defending Kitchen, you need to at least delay upstairs, if not completely hold it out.
Attackers have recovered their
When Spacestation were defending in the kitchen, they, excuse me, when Spacestation were defending in the kitchen, they were using that top floor a lot more than what Noble was using right now. They were holding it firm, and they managed to use it as a complete deterrent to that site push. Noble might do the same. They might fall off. A lot of teams have just immediately fallen off as they start getting pressured upstairs.
All right. 45 seconds in, Noble will just stay static. Like we said, this aggressiveness of Noble that it was there and then falls off and then comes back. I mean, it didn't really work all that well against Millennium. Against Boot Camp, they were aggressive the second time around and ended up being actually out-muscling Boot Camp in the aggression category. If they just hold these angles and remain vigilant and patient as they are, look at this. They're not even moving in spot. This is what we saw at a Noble previously.
Don't need to.
I know they don't need to, but at the same time, this is not what we're used to seeing so much. This just be able to sprint across and be able to play really, really free-flowing on the roam. You've just got to have Breezy and Acid just sit there and wait and see what they can accomplish with the rest of the team, just holding tight angles. SSG lined up inside a guitar hall here as they'll juggle that diffuser and work away inside of Master. So Crazy and Heavy are going to juggle themselves and figure out where they need to go, but I think there's been a call to come back to the site. Heavy won't be able to make it, though, as his life will be cut short at the hands of a man whose name has been on the tip of everybody's tongues this match, Redeemer.
It's really been fragging out, even playing operators like Thermite. Breezy will take down Thinking Nade in response, though. So, it's not quite over yet for Noble. Of course, Space Station is 1 round away from that guaranteed tie, if not an absolute win. Brian going to exchange some fire there with Breezy, and it's about even. As the final attack starts to shape up, you can see Space Station going for their delivery push.
And here you have it. Capitao bolts out. Space Station Gaming are only 1 round potentially away as a Toxic Babe goes down. Chala will walk in, start to plant next to a soft wall, and really rely on Rampy to be able to give the cover he needs. Meanwhile, Yeti will try to keep it close as Brian is felled and Diffuser goes down successfully, but both Redeemer and Chala and Rampy very low on HP. Rampy and Chala actually have been downed. The Valkyrie looking for a run out here as Redeemer will have to do some heroics yet again, but there will be nothing for him. It will be all Noble. They'll shut down the hot hand of Redeemer, and they'll be able to get that diffuse plant. Good job for Noble, but still, 4-2 for SSG. So overall, SSG still within striking distance of walking away with 1 point. They'll need 1 more round to tie things and send it to a guaranteed draw. So, regular match. So losing her means that some of the sites that you would have a bit more reliance on, Penthouse and Theater is the big one, somewhat towards the double bars as well. Without Amira, it makes it a little bit more difficult for teams to be able to successfully defend without her, and that's why I think Kitchen has seen a rise in its play.
So, double bar as the next defense for Noble as we finally get back into things. The 6-pick onto Clash. No Valkyrie. Less information, but, I mean, it can be exchanged. I guess technically Clash is an information gathering operator, so it's just going to be a little bit more direct. Now, also a 6-pick here for Dokkaebi onto Glass, so you'll have the same amount of smokes and you'll be able to see through them now, but no more phone calls. You can see the setup here is going to be an open one as Breezy starts to open the holes from the open area into the blue bar. That's a really great position to have open up if you are going to be roaming heavily on the top floor. It means you can at any moment jump down and apply pressure to the attackers as they push in through that south lobby, or the south office, if you want to call it that. The setup as well has a Maestro in play. Is no Echo, as Echo has been banned. So you need to rely on indirect denial from other sources. Maestro is a good option. The Evil Eyes are going to be likely placed for a lot of the more typical default plant spots, and they have indeed been planted for both default spots in both sites. Yeah.
So we'll see how bar shapes out. We've only seen it, well, we've seen it twice actually earlier today. Noble won it the very first time, and a Space Station Gaming won it on their defense, and a big part of why that happened was the way that they were able to take map control away and then clear out around it. Then it made it easier work for Space Station, or my apologies, the way that they were able to, You ever just lose your thought?
It's one of those days. It happens.
It's one of those days, man.
Yeah. No, it happens.
It's one of those days. One of the ways that they were able to win it the first time when they went through bars was Noble swept through, took out all of the roamers, and then collapsed on the site. The second time around, that's where my thought was going. Was
Here we go.
How did Spacestation win it the second time around? Was, well, you have Redeemer kill everybody. And primarily...
It's true.
Primarily, the way that happened was he was playing on Cool Vibe stairs, and you had two members of Noble push through in that direction, and then the third one just not make the call to look in the right direction. So we'll see what happens. As Crazy playing on Clash will be an interesting thing. It was Spacestation that I said would probably end up playing the Clash, but no, this time around it's going to be Noble.
The Grenade eating half of his HP's worth of damage, and he is doing a lot to help open up this site. As you can see, applying a lot of pressure to Sandwich and the bar, which are two of the main anchor positions to hold on to the Sunrise bar. But he's not able to directly apply pressure. As you can see, he's opening the holes, but not choosing to use them. Crazy going to be disrupted by that Zophia's lifeline. And no follow-up, so kind of just some wasted utility. But at least the information has been called out. They now know Crazy is playing on the blue stairs and waiting for his opportunity to push.
I think that was a big waste of utility. You only really needed one to accomplish that same thing. It didn't even look like Clash had even really started her animation to move the shield to the side when that second one went down. So I'm not exactly certain how much that one concussive blast could have made a big difference on, but you've also got Thinking Aid from above trying to distract Breezy. He'll just chew right through him with that C8. Clash has a bit of company with her, so they'll pull out a frag grenade here to possibly catch the Jaeger, and the airmail will go out. The Jaeger will manage to scoot off, though Yeti not losing any life whatsoever as he goes for the rotate and will finish off Thinking Aid to put us back at a 4v4. All the while, unbeknownst to Noble, is the fact that, well, there's a plant going down. You'll hear the Evil Eye start doing some zapping, and Acid will actually get Redeemer in the midst of a plant. Chala and Heavy will get Heavy and Yeti down with Chala getting 2. That's a big double kill on his behalf. Rampy almost seeing Acid as he'll go back onto zapping away with the Evil Eye, but that'll be all she wrote. Trying for the quick switch here on Clash is Chala. He's got 3 kills now. He'll be looking for a 4th onto Acid as he plays around the bar inside of Blue Bar, and it'll be Rampy finishing it off. And Spacestation Gaming will guarantee themselves at least 1 point out of this match as they're on match point, and will look to possibly increase that to 3 with a win here in round number 8.
If not for Chala, that looked like it was going to be a successful defense for Noble. They had all the things aligning, but Chala just suddenly in the middle of bar, tearing people apart. Nice triple kill for him, and he managed to, despite the Evil Eye still being in play, establish enough control where there was no way for the defenders to deny that defuse plant a second time. So, Penthouse Theater, the next site for a Noble, and Spacestation have the right tools for the job. Even if they 6-pick again off of the Dokkaebi onto the Glaz, yeah, there it is. This is a good lineup for this attack. Capital plus a Glaz is going to absolutely shut out the rotation from the theater to the Penthouse, and we could see it put a stranglehold, as we so often do, and allow for an easy plant inside of B for Spacestation. Now they have to execute it properly. They also have a Thermite, so the VIP wall is likely to be a victim of that very utility. So Thermic Charge can open up a very large hole and allow for a potential plant at the default spot, which is just by that master bed. Anything's possible though, and we haven't seen a lot. In fact, we've seen very little emphasis placed on the VIP wall through the last 2 Coastline matches today.
Yeah, the fight's always been through Hall of Fame,
yeah,
which a lot of people will call Record, where the guitars are, and or Bathroom. Those have been the 2 big focal points for these teams. There you have it. There's Record or Hall of Fame, as it's technically called. A lot of people call it Record or Red.
I've heard it called Trophy as well. There's various names for many different places.
Yeah, and then the Bathroom just to the left of your screen have been the 2 major areas that we've seen the attackers work through, especially Red Hall there, or Record or VIP, depending on the myriad calls that we have.
I really like this reinforcement here between the Bathroom wall and Hall of Fame. Basically what that does is it's going to force hard destruction, of course, if you want to push from just the drop down and Hall of Fame, as we've been seeing. Because you need to be able to rotate between the 2 to make an effective push. That way you can really utilize your smokes properly. And your ability to see through smokes as well.
Yeah.
So that reinforcement is going to force the Thermite to push into that area if Spacestation choose to use the attack that we have seen employed so often today.
One thing to keep in mind with the defensive lineup that is on Noble's side of things is they have no utility to deprive a hard destructor from getting any walls that they really want.
Yeah.
That Thermite will be able to just walk right in and be able to open up VIP if they want to, because there's no Bandit or Mute available for them.
To be fair to that logic, I mean, it's hard to have those Bandit batteries stay alive on the VIP wall. As you can see, we do have Chala repelling on the main site window, the big east window, and he could at least one panel open for his Thermite if there were Bandit batteries. But it is a layer of defense that they just don't have to chop past.
Yeah, they don't have to worry about dealing with it. So Chala's taken some damage very early in the round. Roughly about a minute ago, he sustained about 25 damage, and we're not exactly certain why, but this is just as we take a look at what's going on with Redeemer as well as Rampy at the moment, is execute happening, and then Rampy will just watch the cutoff here, but he'll be gassed and have to work his way out as the Toxic Babies there swiftly behead Breezy with Thinking Nade taking out Heavy, and now yet another. It's everybody down. It's all up to Crazy. He'll start with Thinking Nade, but he's got 3 more to go. He sees the Capitao, and Chala will be there. Chala. Excellent job on his behalf. That'll be a 6-2, and the fastest map of the day. Spacestation Gaming will vault up to 2nd in the standings, and what a performance from all those players, especially the ace from Redeemer.
Yeah, truly a dominant one there for Spacestation. They seem to be proving themselves worthy of their spot that they now hold. And that attack in the final round was so well coordinated, can I just say. They did dedicate themselves a little bit too much to that plant. You saw the Thermite go in and try to plant in smoke and under an Evil Eye, and took a lot of damage really quickly, died before he could get the plant off. But it didn't matter. That's the most beautiful thing about that push from Spacestation, is that it didn't matter because they had so many bodies there. They're going to get the plant off. There's nothing to do, nothing you could really do to stop it unless you get a C4 to get multiple people in one fell swoop. So props to Spacestation accounting for